restless. I am so restless. And this changing world leaves me speechless. I am lost for words, but I kept
My name is Johnny Benitez. I'm a legal immigrant from Colombia. Why did my family come here legally? Why did we wait in line? Why did we do all the things that we needed to be good citizens, just for you guys to hand it over to people who have no respect for our borders? What was the point? Sneaking into a country doesn't make you an immigrant any more than breaking into a house makes you a homeowner. Sanctuary city is a misnomer. It means a city in which certain laws are not observed. If legislators are allowed to circumvent the law in order to form an illegal voting bloc, what moral incentive does the citizenry have to follow other laws? I support the moratorium on all immigration and zero refugees for this country. Thank you.
Welcome to the Fallen State. I'm Jesse Lee Peterson. There's a lot of talk about the alt-right movement. I have with me Johnny Benitez. He is an alt-right activist here in Southern California. Thank you so much for coming, man.
Thanks for having me.
You're an alt-right person, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is the alt-right?
That word was coined by Richard Spencer, and so a lot of people identify anyone who says alt-right as being exactly Richard Spencer and exactly his talking points. But for a lot of other people, alt-right is a term that appeals to them because it's alternative to typical Republicans, like the Republican establishment as it functions right now. I have friends that say that they're alt-right or consider themselves alt-right, but don't have any identitarian or identity politics as part of their ideology at all, anywhere to people who are white nationalists and white separatists.
Richard Spencer, is he the head of the movement?
I wouldn't say he's the head of the movement because, for example, I don't actually listen to Richard Spencer a lot, so I wouldn't be comfortable saying this is the guy who is like my ideological leader, figurehead. He just happens to be the person that coined that word, and that word happened to take off.
Oh, I see.
And he does make a lot of important points because there's a lot of I don't think you could be a part of it without accepting the reality of like a white genocide, specifically like the things going on in South Africa and fertility rates. And so the goals that people want to address those and the tactics are very diverse among that community. So to say that Richard Spencer's at the head of it, I mean, you can't say that he didn't coin the word,
right.
But I don't necessarily have to say that Richard Spencer is like my ideological leader because I haven't even heard everything he's had to say.
Do you agree with what you have heard that you've said?
The problem is I haven't heard very much.
Oh,
I
I
actually
see.
haven't heard a lot of Richard Spencer.
Oh, okay.
Some of it.
In the current year, white families work their whole lives to send their children to universities, where they will be told just how despicable they are. In the current year, the powerful lecture the powerless about how they don't recognize their privilege. In the current year, a wealthy Jewish celebrity bragging about the end of white men is the one speaking truth to power. Government doesn't stop crime, but subsidizes it. White privilege is very real, but race is just a social construct.
This is the beginning of a movement. This is the beginning of awakening, an awakening that is going around the entire world.
Is there a difference between the alt-right and the alt-lite?
Yeah. As far as I'm concerned, alt-lite is most of the time just people who are virtue signaling against the alt-right. And they're people who are like secretly willing to talk about white genocide, but then when it comes into public, they're afraid to say anything about it.
Oh, I see. So the alt-lite would not discuss white genocide?
Yeah, they're virtue signalers, and for the most part, they're like afraid to speak out.
Oh, I see. Do they get along with the alt-right?
So there's a movement to try to build unity because at the end there's a lot of common goals and a lot of general patriotism for the country, at least as far as the movements go in this country. But there's a lot of divide because there's a lot of punching right coming often from the alt-right.
Oh, okay.
Germany is facing a drastic number of refugees by the end of 2015, believed to be in the region of 1.5 million.
Europe has not yet learned how to be multicultural.
This country owes the rest of the world anything it wants.
Folks like me who were Caucasian of European descent, for the first time in 2017, will be in an absolute minority.
Europe is not going to be the monolithic societies that they once were in the last century.
You have to really change the policy of immigration inside Europe.
We got to put ourselves in situations where we're in the minority.
They think it is their country, that it is a white country, and they are absolutely wrong.
An unrelenting stream of immigration, non-stop.
Whiteness is a form of racial oppression.
So the purpose of the alt-right is what?
Well, again, it's such a large movement that you could ask any number of people, and different figureheads will have different goals as far as exactly what it is that they want.
And so what is it do you want as a member of the movement? What do you want?
Well, I would like to secure our cultural identity. For me, the biggest issue would be ending immigration, like at least a 50-year moratorium on immigration. And if we do take immigrants, I would like to take them from places like South Africa, where those white South African farmers are being killed at those kind of rates. And I don't want to take any more refugees, like at all. 0 refugees.
I don't want that either.
Yeah.
So in South Africa, you're right, the whites are being killed, they're under attack. The land has been taken away from them. Mm-hmm. As a matter of fact, I read a story recently where the whites have to put fences around their homes, walls around their home, mm-hmm. and they still need bodyguards to protect them with the walls being there. And you want that to end, right?
Yeah, well, I would, if I was going to take in immigrants, what I mean is I would like to take those immigrants in, because I don't think that there's a solution for that. I don't think integration is working very well for those South African farmers.
So you want the South African whites to come here?
Well, if they want to stay, they could stay. I'm just saying, if we did have immigrants, I would want to take them from places where very far leftist policies are taking place and they're in danger. Like, for example, if we had British men who wanted to get out of their country because of what's going on in the influx of Islamic refugees that they've taken in, right. I would be more comfortable taking them in than I want to take anyone else in from anywhere else.
I'm here to disturb a white man's peace. You're right. The white man has been too comfortable for too long.
They're actually pulling on the doors.
So it's basically Black Lives Matter all over again down there.
Yeah, looting.
These things are just going to increasingly happen, and it's just going to be overwhelmed by this.
Yeah,
eventually.
Arthur Kemp is right. You know, the white people in South Africa and Africa in general need to get out.
Was it a mistake for white Americans, once they founded America and built it and made it so great, was it a mistake for them to let other people come, other non-white people come here?
Well, it wasn't necessarily in the beginning. It was, I think, since JFK. And I think, I mean, a big part of immigration, of cultural assimilation, is dosage. If you take in like a very small, a negligent portion of a population from somewhere else, then they will integrate into your society. Right. Because the thing is that you can't really break it down by nation. For example, I'm a legal South American immigrant, and I'm also white. But so you can't really say, or should we keep white people or should we keep brown people from coming in from different countries? Because I wouldn't say that anybody from South America should be coming anymore.
Right.
And that's and there's people that are South American that are white, black. I mean, Latino American just means you come from a Latin American nation. You could be any race.
What took white people so long to speak up? I've been saying for 27 years that white Americans are under attack, and they're afraid to speak up for fear of being called racist. And now that we have President Trump in office, I noticed that white Americans, such as yourself and others, I don't know how long you've been speaking up, but are starting to speak up. What took so long? Why did it take so long? What were they afraid of?
I would say what's taking so long, because there's still a large portion of people that are unwilling to admit to what are facts. But it's still, people get fired. People get fired for saying for stating hate facts, which is basically just saying things that are true that people take as discriminatory. So I mean, I don't blame some people for speaking out. Some people have more of an ability to speak out, so they do because their workplaces or whatever their situations are more stable. But that has a large part to do with it. Like, white guilt is a huge part of the problem in this country.
And what are they guilty of?
Nothing. They feel guilty for systems of oppression that they never engaged in, and they feel like they owe something to people who were never suffered under those systems.
And why do they feel that way? Because it's not real.
Oh, indoctrination. Our schools, when I grew up in our schools and reading the books that I was told were the right books to read, I was very far left for a long time. And so you read books like The Indigenous Peoples' History of the United States, which is a very biased account. And if you read that book, you'll come away with a lot of, either if you're white, a lot of guilt, or if you're not white, a lot of hatred towards white people. And then if you build up all these books and the education and you do that for people for the majority of their life, they're going to feel guilty about their identity.
Have you ever been afraid to speak up about these issues?
Yeah, I mean, I got kind of doxxed in one of our local papers in Orange County, but I wouldn't have. I didn't really want to. It's just that once you're out there, you might as well be out there, and you might as well be a voice for people who aren't out there and who would like to speak.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, nobody wants to end up not unemployable because of what they believe in.
And so you're over that fear now?
I mean, it's just, once you're out there, you're out there. So there's nothing, you can't put the genie back in the bottle.
Right.
And I think it is important to talk about. I'm much more scared of what happens to the country if no one speaks up.
Right. And so you don't have the fear anymore of speaking up about these issues?
Yeah. I mean, I guess I'm just, whatever happens, happens.
Yeah, you do have it, or you don't have it?
I'm not afraid of what I believe in being put out there, but that's not generally what the left does. The left kind of frames you as a different thing, and then that could present problems for me living my life.
So if I'm understanding you, then you're not you have concerns, but not fear, and so you speak up, but you are concerned about what can happen.
Well, yeah, I'm concerned about the culture that we're building up, where we allow businesses that take a stand to be shut down. We were run out. I had an event that was at a given place, and it was shut down, and we had to work very hard to open that up to us again, and I ended up paying $10,000 to have an event that should have cost $4,500 because of leftist threats and violence and potential issues that could arise.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so fighting against that climate is important, and there's a lot of concern. I mean, I live somewhere that's relatively safe. If I was like living in the wrong area, I think it would be prudent to be more quiet about my beliefs.
He's the next Hitler, dude. He's the next Hitler.
They're going after this car right now.
Oh my God. They're running after the car. They're trying to break his legs. Fuck Donald Trump.
Fuck Donald Trump, nigga. Fuck that cracker.
He's a racist fucker. I'm a racist.
Run, bitch! Oh my God, they're chasing down this guy. They're surrounding him. The cops are going to save him. Here, let me see that.
Oh, fuck.
Basically, it says that they're fighting for a new way for communism. You can sit and die, you dumb bitch! Thanks, Trump! You're children! Cut, bitch! Are you bleeding? Yes. What happened? A horrible person who doesn't like Trump pushed me. I saw that. A stupid Mexican pushed me.
In the who make up the movement? Race, age, gender, male, female, religion. Who make up the alt-right movement?
Everyone. I mean, there's a lot of demographics. I mean, this millennial generation is pretty bad for the most part, but the generation that's coming after them is one of the most right-wing generations that we've had in a very long time. And so, I mean, you have everybody involved.
When you say everybody, mean all races, male and female, or just everybody?
There's
white?
a lot of people that don't want to live in I mean, we have a lot of one of my biggest supporters is a guy named Harim who has a pretty big YouTube following, and he's very brown. A lot of people wouldn't like what would happen to this country if it was run by foreigners from a different place with a different culture.
Yeah. When you say brown, is he black brown or Mexican?
No,
brown?
he's like Mexican brown.
Right.
One thing that we do say is that, you know, our blacks are better than their blacks, and that's actually coming from the alt-light. But it is because being black, you're indoctrinated into this idea that you need to consider yourself a victim and that you need to think and believe a certain way in a way that white people aren't. White people are more free to kind of come to themselves about what they are, left or right.
Are there women in the movement?
Oh, yeah.
So what kind of things do you have planned that are coming up?
I am going on a tour with Richard Spencer and Mustache Matt, Mike Enoch, and some others. It's called the Proud to Be White Tour. So it's going to be very controversial.
The immigration policy used to favor Europeans. Like, absolutely majority of immigrants were completely European. But then in 1965, they changed the policy. They promised it was not going to result in a massive demographic shift, but it did. So the people of America were lied to, they were deceived, and they had this policy that they did not want forced upon them against the will of the American people that has resulted in massive third world migration to the United States, that is now seeing what is happening in LA, for example, where whites are literally like less than 30% of the population. Yep. We're being disenfranchised, we're being replaced in our own countries, we're being taught that our interests, we're not allowed to talk about them, they don't matter, that being replaced is a good thing, and that we should actually celebrate our own decline and our own loss of power over our own government.
Are you a nationalist? Are you a white nationalist?
I wouldn't necessarily identify with that title, but I definitely don't want to live in a country that's where whites are a minority. But I avoid that title because it's equated with white supremacy, which is not what I believe in.
What does white nationalist mean? What's the real definition of it, instead of the white supremacy thing?
Basically, I think that the biggest concern for most white nationalists is not living in a country where they're a minority and just perpetuating the white race.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Is it putting the country first?
I think your primary concern is probably the perpetuation of the white race.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
I believe in putting my country first.
Sure.
And I don't want any more illegals, and I don't want any more refugees, and I don't want any more. And then I think even with the people who are coming through the front door, they need to be held back for a while, you know, until we can get ourselves together. Am I a black nationalist?
No. I actually, when I was a leftist, I read a lot about that. No, when you're concerned with identity politics primarily, that's something else. For me, my biggest concern is also the country. So as far as immigration and refugees and stuff like that, my concern with identity politics is secondary.
You look like a skinhead. Yeah. Do you know that?
Yeah.
There's this movie where this white guy was playing.
Yeah.
Oh, you've been associated with him too?
Pretty much in every conversation I've ever had. Yeah.
You look just like that guy. What's his name?
Derek Vineyard, or the actor or the character?
The character. Well, you look like the actor too, but you really look like him in the movie.
Yeah.
And you sound like him and everything. You look like him. You're not him, are you?
No, I'm not that guy.
Was that movie made in your image?
Yeah, I don't think so. You know what's funny though is I always say about that movie, it is propaganda. If you look at the scene right before, there's a scene right before they burglarize a Korean kind of business or something like that, and he gives this speech, and the speech makes pretty relevant points because they're all about immigration. And then what they do is they have them make good points about like what's happening with the country and the country wasting resources on immigrants.
Yeah.
And then they have them use racial epithets to make them sound bad. And then they have them commit a heinous act so that you have this association with these real problems about government spending on immigrants. And then you associate it with these things that have nothing to do with that. But you come away from the movie thinking, wow, that's what Nazis believe in. And so the people who believe this are Nazis. And so it's
But you look, tell me the name of the movie again.
American History X.
Oh yeah, American History X.
Yeah.
You look just like the actor.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm talking to the actor.
I'm sure you'd get a lot more views if you did.
Yeah, and other people told you this?
Yeah, it's pretty common. I just shaved my head because I have like a thin hairline, so I've been shaving it for a long time.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you have the tattoos and everything. So.
Yeah, but I don't have any swastika tattoos.
Just, is there anything? I hear a lot of black people and liberals speak of white supremacy. Does that exist, or is that an illusion too?
I think the amount of people that are white supremacists that exist is probably minimal. I don't think there's a white supremacist movement taking foot anywhere. I've never heard anybody, even as far as like the most extreme people I've heard, talk about like the things that you would equate, the things that liberals are talking about, like putting a bunch of Jews in ovens or anything like that.
Yeah.
I don't think that really exists. I don't think there's like too many real people that are like that.
Right, I agree. I haven't seen it, and I've been looking for it.
No.
The alt-right, you want a white America, I mean, you want America to be, you don't want to be the minority in the country, right?
I definitely don't want to live in a country where we're a minority.
And why not?
It generally doesn't go well for minorities. One of the only videos I've seen of Richard Spencer is he talks about that. He actually doesn't deny that there is some oppression that happens with minority groups, and that's why he doesn't want his kids to be minorities.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be a minority.
I don't understand, but why don't you have babies? White people don't have babies anymore. They have one, maybe two.
Well, I think a big part of that problem is that in general, like welfare, like if people come to this country, people that can't have 5 kids, they're comfortable doing it anyway.
Right.
A lot of people are told, like in our culture, we're told to wait and hold off, and then there's a certain amount of degeneracy that's injected into our culture, whether that's like, you know, experimenting with your sexuality to turn you into like a homosexual man who never has kids,
right,
or just telling regular heterosexual men to not settle down and have kids and just continue this culture of hooking up with people and having just promiscuous sex without having an actual family. I think these things are very specifically injected into our culture, and I think that has a lot to do with our low fertility rates.
Oh, that's amazing, man.
Yeah.
Are all white people nationalists?
No, all white people. There's a lot of terrible white people, a lot of far left white people, yeah.
My concern is that if we lose white people, we're going to lose America.
Yeah.
You know, and I said it on my radio show, I said it everywhere, because if you really think about it, I don't know any other country where if white people are not in control, it's a place you want to go and live.
Yeah.
White people seem to create a free environment. You know, they're very creative. And I don't see any other culture doing that. And so if we lose white folks, we're going to lose America in that area as well. Am I right in that?
I think so. I mean, I think that's where we get a lot of our support from people who aren't white. At least, well, I mean, we get a lot of general patriotic support, but the people that are concerned with identity politics are concerned because we do come from countries, or we look at other countries where whites are a minority, and there's not a single one I can point to that, like, I would rather live there.
Right.
I mean, I wouldn't even want to live in Germany today.
Right.
I wouldn't want to live in France. I wouldn't want to live in Britain. These are all places that are, I think, I don't even know, but they might be white majority places, and the demographic has shifted enough that I don't want to live there.
That's amazing. Why is it that white folks are the primary creators? You know, they make things right. And the other races can't seem to do it.
I don't know about that. The Japanese have a pretty advanced culture and a very strong work ethic.
But aren't they communists or something?
Japan?
No,
that's China.
China, yeah.
Yeah,
but
and they're state capitalists. It's different than what communism is. Every country that's ever tried communism pretends to be communist and then goes state capitalism. So it's more about having authoritarian systems of government over people. I don't know why it's like that in white majority countries. I couldn't tell you.
And now, a word from our sponsor.
I am so excited. I can't believe it. Finally, the Fall Estate merchandise is here. Look at this beautiful shirt. We have red, white, and black. Comfortable, I like the fit. Really nice t-shirts. And we have mugs. The Fall Estate mug. On the back it says, "Did you have fun?" Did you have fun? A gift. Excellent gifts, both. This is a great way for you to help us. Can you imagine your friends seeing you with this at the office, at the park, in your home? You're gonna love it. Order them now. Go to thefallestate.tv. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. What do you think about, I'm black and I'm saying this out loud, that if we lose the white folks, then it's going to be over for the country, because everybody else seems to create ghettos.
Yeah.
And so, what do you think about me saying that?
I mean,
I'm as black as the ace of spades.
I think if you're a citizen in this country and you look around and you just take in objective facts, that you would feel that way. A lot of people that actually take a look at the objective facts that aren't white feel that way. They don't want to live in a, you know, this is like the freest society. Like if you look at Muslims, if you're a Muslim in this country, even with all the bigotry that supposedly exists here, you have a much freer life than you would in your Muslim country.
That's right.
And so even if you were Muslim, if you were an objective, fact-loving Muslim, you would have to look at where you came from and where you live now, and you would have to want to preserve the things that make this country the way it is.
What does the alt-right think about the race issue?
I can't speak for the whole alt-right because, like I said, I have friends that consider themselves alt-right and they don't engage in identity politics at all. They really believe that there's no difference between the races.
What do you think about it? They claim that white people hate black people and white people want to keep everybody down and that you hate everybody. What do you think about all that?
I think the only systemic racism that really exists at this point, employment-wise, is like you have to hire a certain amount of minorities. You don't have to hire any white people. And there are like schools that lose funding if they have too high a percentage of white people and stuff like that. And so I would say that systemic racism, while there are traces that maybe exist in certain places, definitely isn't a big problem. I think it's just a talking point in order to push their policies. I don't really think that if you're an American and you live in this country and you work hard, that you don't have the opportunity to get ahead.
I don't think racism exists at all. I think it's a lie, it's an illusion that's been made up in order to divide and conquer.
Yeah.
Are you white?
Yeah.
You're white?
Yes.
Your father and mother are white?
Yes.
What is it like to be white?
What is it like to be white?
Yeah.
I don't know. I never really thought about it for most of my life. I just was a person, an American, and I don't know what it's like in contrast with something else.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
What's important to you?
The country. I mean, maintaining America is the last refuge of Western culture. Because I think some Western cultures in Europe are done. I think it'd be very unlikely for Italy and France to save themselves, and Germany. So maintaining this as a refuge for Western culture is probably my main, most important thing in life.
So is that going to happen?
It depends if people are willing to fight for it.
And are they willing to fight?
Some people are, and people are waking up, and the movement is definitely growing, so I hope so.
So within the movement, is there a disagreement going on? Are they all agreeing with what the primary purpose is and how to solve that problem?
I think there's an agreement on some level, but there's a lot of punching right, and there's a lot of people who get afraid of the consequences of being labeled a certain way, and so instead of just shutting up, they punch right, and they have problems like that. But ultimately, I think anybody who's got open eyes has to agree on what the problem is and what the solution is.
There's something called is it the PEEP? P-E-P for the meme?
Pepe the Frog.
Oh, Pepe the Frog. What's the purpose of that?
I don't know. It's just memes on the internet. See, the left wing likes to ban things. They like to shut things down. And the weakness was is that you can take their symbols. And so it's just a symbol that somebody made, and then they turned it into whatever they want. Pepe the Frog could be whatever you want. If you're the artist, you can put a swastika on him, you can put a cross on him, you can put a yarmulke on him, you can do whatever you want. But because leftists tend to ban speech and symbols, once something is generally thought of as taken by a certain side, they have to ban it. And so they lose, and they always lose whenever that happens.
There's this idea, and I hear it a lot, that the alt-right hate the blacks, the Mexicans, and the Jews.
Yeah.
What do you say to all that?
I don't see any hate. I think people just want to mostly preserve their race and their culture, and that's true of probably everybody.
Do the alt-right blame the Jews or the blacks or the Mexicans for their downfall?
Do the who?
The alt-right. Do you blame the Jews, the blacks, and the Mexicans for not standing up for your country and allowing it to go out of control?
Well, there's certain problems. I would say, for example, the Israel lobby is a problem. I think when you say Jews are a problem, there's Jews that are just regular people doing stuff, and they have nothing to do with the Israel lobby. But you can say that the Israel lobby is a huge problem. They lobby for us to spend our money supporting them, and we ultimately do. There are movements of black people who obviously push this white guilt narrative that make the country worse. So I would say that there are cultures within all of those groups that, are absolutely bad for America, but I wouldn't say that each individual person is a problem.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't think anybody's saying that.
Right.
Yeah.
What I don't understand, what's the cause of the weakness of white Americans, especially white men, that they allowed it to get
white guilt indoctrination.
But they have to know that's not real, though. I mean, if someone trying to make you feel guilty, you have sense enough to know that you're trying to make me feel guilty, and I'm not falling for it. I have nothing to do with your problem. What was the weakness in white Americans that they fell for it?
Indoctrination is powerful. I mean, especially when you consider that these kids are being told these things about how Columbus was evil and all these things. They're being told that like when they're very small for like 12 years. And then you see that sometimes, most of the time, that's not enough. So like how far left somebody is has a strong correlation with how much time they spend in school, and specifically in the humanities. So when you're talking about people who are like usually around like late 20s to 30s or early 20s, and they've spent their whole life in a system of indoctrination, I mean, it works for the most part, especially on people that are weak-minded.
So why doesn't parents prevent that from happening to the children?
Parents aren't as active in their kids' lives as they should be, and I think that's all part of the deterioration of the nuclear family.
That's amazing, man. So I want to ask this: there are white conservatives, there are alt-right, and there are now the alt-Lite. Mm-hmm. Do they all come together at any point and work together?
No. Typical. For me, the real big divide, the actual divide, is between traditional conservatives and the rest of the movement. And the reason is, like, I talk to regular politicians, a guy like, for example, Travis Allen, and he says that, he's like against sanctuary cities, but at the same time, he still wants to open the front door to more illegal immigrants and more refugees and stuff like that. Actually, I don't know if Travis Allen specifically wants more refugees, but I know for a fact that he wants more legal migrants. And that's a big problem, and that's the one thing that we can't compromise on. That's the whole issue. And so traditional conservatives are generally okay with that policy, and that's absolutely not acceptable to me or anyone that I would consider a part of that movement. And I would say that's the hard line, and so that's where the real divide is between those like rhino conservatives and people who are actually trying to save the country.
Do you ever come together with them and debate them or discuss those issues with them?
Sure, yeah. When he walked right up to us because we were at the same rally, and I told him exactly how I felt. And then he actually looked at my friend who was a white guy, and he was like, well, we got to bring him in because Americans won't do that jobs. And he actually owns a business where he's a landscaper. So this whole thing is like, it's very elitist. It's the idea that there's jobs that Americans won't do is offensive, and it's a lie.
It sure is.
There's jobs that Americans won't do for $5 an hour, sure. But that's how the economy works.
You, as a white man and now an alt-right, do you feel like the minorities of this country, whatever they are, Mexicans, Jews, blacks, do you feel they hate you as a white man?
I think the indoctrinated ones do, but people in general don't. I mean, there's a lot of people of those different racial factions that are a part of a lot of our groups that we're involved in, and they don't hate me at all. In fact, they don't like white guilt. A lot of black people, I know some of the strongest people who oppose affirmative action are competent black people who hate the idea that they might be given a leg up, not based on their abilities.
That's right.
So indoctrinated people, yeah, sure, there's a lot of indoctrinated people who blame me for existing for their failures, but I don't think that necessarily everybody.
What woke you up? What made you get involved? Was there one incident or event that's got your attention and you realize, you know what, I'm doing all this work, I'm working for me, but I need to think about my country?
Just the eggshells that you have to walk on. I think a lot of people are noticing that just they have to walk on eggshells wherever they go in their workplaces. There's a constant just if you are a white male, there is a kind of predatory feel that society is starting to take against us.
Yeah.
And it becomes more and more apparent, and I think that wakes up a lot of people. Trump's victory was probably a huge thing. I just didn't think he could win. I mean, the media did a really good job of convincing people that Hillary had it.
Yeah.
And so that left-wing indoctrination in mainstream media is very powerful. And so counteracting that is one of my focuses now because of that. That's probably the root source of a lot of apathy from people who do understand what the problem is.
And so how would you grade the President Trump at this time?
He's done some good things. I mean, he did bring back a lot of jobs that people said were impossible because they were manufacturing and stuff. I would like to see, and culture, I would like to see a lot more movement on the border with the wall. I want that wall built as soon as possible.
Yeah.
But I think a big part of that is public pressure and support for that, as far as getting congressional approval and things like that.
It's coming.
Yeah.
The wall will happen.
Yeah.
So you like President Trump? You like his personality and everything?
Oh, I do like Trump. Yeah, I do like Trump.
Will you vote for him next time around?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Well, I'll probably vote for him if he continues to be the man that he's been and he doesn't do anything to if he doesn't switch sides and go globalist on me, yeah,
okay.
I'll vote for him.
Yeah, I like the fact that, you know, he is a man, he's speaking up, he doesn't have any fear. If you attack him, he's going to attack back. I like the fact he tweets all the time and expose the media, the politicians, and we never had that before. I mean, not that I'm aware of. We've not had a politician like that.
No.
Isn't that amazing? You recently announced on your Facebook page that you are heading a group called Alt-Lite, Knights of Orange County.
Yeah.
What is that?
Well, that's Base Stickman's thing. It's like a national group. I don't even know if it's in other countries. But it's just like a defense force. Basically, like when we went out to Berkeley, they shut down that Milo event. And then after that, Base Stickman went out there and he wore it with his protective gear. Right. And he stood up to them and he fought them and there was all those things. And so we just wanted to form a group to protect against that because leftist violence might escalate instead of just dissipate.
Yep.
And so we wanted to be because like we saw, like I support police in general, but sometimes in some places those police forces either can't support you because the city council won't let them, or they've hired the wrong kinds of people that don't want to support you. And so I think it's important to make sure that there is a civilian group of men willing to stand up for free speech when leftists come and try to shut you down with physical violence.
That's good, man.
And that's all that group is about, basically.
But when you say alt-Knights, I think of the KKK.
No.
Or the skinheads.
No.
I know it doesn't mean that. But
it's a multiracial group. It's not even exclusive to white people.
I'm really, in all honesty, I'm really happy to see white men and white Americans stand up for a change. For 27 years, I've been writing about this. I've been begging them to stand up because when you're weak like that, you cause your enemy to just overtake you. They keep pushing and pushing and pushing until they finally destroy you. Or you become so angry, you come out and fight in the wrong way, and then they say, see, I told you they were racist.
Yeah, you're very right.
You feel good in this fight?
Yeah, I feel like we're very capable of winning as long as we keep pushing, and if not, I wouldn't be engaged in it.
I wanted to ask you, what are the 3 most urgent things that must be accomplished during this presidency, Trump's presidency?
I don't know if you'd consider it one thing, but shutting down immigration and refugees is a big deal. I think probably cutting social security, safety nets or whatever, welfare programs is a big part of causing self-deportation.
Yeah.
So I think that if we were able to shut those things down, come hard on businesses that hire illegals, that you would get a ton of self-deporting people. We would probably be able to free California. And I think voter identification is a big part of that too. So if we could build that wall and secure immigration and do voter identification and at the very least do major changes in our welfare programs, that would do a lot to secure the cultural identity of the country.
And so what do you do to get your message out every day?
We're pretty active on social media, but I try to have I have an event in Laguna Beach every month.
You do?
Yeah, because that's where they brought Hillary. So it's really important to get. We have all kinds of Trump supporters out there, different groups of people who are all right wing, and it's an anti-immigration rally. It's to remember the victims of refugees and illegals, because people forget that legal immigrants are sometimes a huge problem. The Boston bombers were legal immigrants.
Right.
And so we have that rally every month, and basically whatever we do, show up at whatever event we can, and when we have to. Show up ready to fight off the leftists at the events when they try to shut down free speech events. Those are all part of getting that movement across.
Do you have a website or something you want to give out?
I'm active on Facebook, Johnny Benitez, and I have a Twitter, Johnny __ MAGA.
And you have a lot of followers and people signing on to what you're doing?
Kind of. There's people with definitely larger social media presences, but it's growing. Yeah, it's pretty big.
And so I thought it was interesting, you want, and the alt-right movement want to bring whites from South Africa to here and from Europe to here because they are being wiped out. And you want them to have a place where...
Well, not in general. Like if there's a guy in South Africa who thinks everything is just fine and dandy and he agrees with the politics, then I don't want to bring him here, no. No, but if you're in Germany and you have common sense and you want to get out because you're afraid for the safety of your family and you want to come to preserve your Western culture, that's who I would open the borders for. I would basically reverse Kennedy's decision to stop taking in Europeans and start taking in third worlders. I would, if I was going to do anything, do that. but still on a very limited basis.
Are there a lot of white people who are trying to come here?
I actually have no barometer for that, but I have to imagine that there are subsections of people who would definitely like to escape their countries.
You know, until right now, I hadn't thought about that because I always hear about refugees from those other countries or illegal aliens. I never hear about white people trying to come here.
Yeah, I think they're probably more likely of wanting to maintain their culture and just tough it out and work harder and make it work.
Right.
But I have to imagine that there's some groups of people who definitely want to come here.
It's a Christian country. Yes, it is. This is a Christian country.
You jealous that we take over? 20, 30 Jahren gar keine ethnischen Mehrheiten mehr haben in unserer Stadt. Und ich sage Ihnen noch ganz deutlich, gerade hier in Richtung rechts, das ist gut so.
We're coming and we give just water and some food.
Frauen geschlagen, hier werden Kinder geschändet und entführt.
Was wäre man Religion? Aber wir können das Badezimmer. Warum man runter?
Tannoch Sebuchum! What's over? Nani Zulu!
Oh mein Gott!
Jedes Jahr sterben mehr Deutsche als geboren werden. Das liegt zum Glück daran, dass die Nazis sich auch nicht besonders vervielfältigen.
We will continue to come here in hundreds of millions until indeed Gaddafi said Europe will turn black.
It's not going to stop, nor should we want it to stop.
The war on whites is real.
When the white people founded this country, and they created the Constitution, was it a mistake to open the doors up where other people can come rather than just letting this be white world and then encouraging them to build the black world, the Hispanic world? And was it a mistake to just let them come into your home like this?
Definitely in the numbers that they had them come in, I think is a big deal. But now there's, they're here. We have to deal with the way that it is. I think it probably, what Kennedy did was definitely a mistake. What Reagan did was a mistake. The amnesty was a mistake. So there's been several mistakes.
Yeah, that was a horrible mistake with Reagan.
Yeah, because back when they founded the country, they were just taking in German and Irish immigrants, and even Ben Franklin had a problem with the German immigrants at the time.
Yeah.
So I think, part of bringing people in is making sure that they're people who want to assimilate with the culture.
Do you feel like a minority in your own land?
No, I live in Orange County. I don't feel like a minority.
Oh,
I feel like there's a very real threat of it. I feel like my kids would be minorities if I don't do something.
Did you have fun?
Yeah, it's good. It's nice being on your show.
So one last thing about the meeting. You have meetings once a month down in, are they rallies that you hold down in North Carolina?
Yeah, it's like a rally. The next one's on July 30th.
July 30th?
Yeah, and it's right on Main Beach, right on the board, in front of the boardwalk where PCH meets Broadway.
Thank you for coming.
All right, thank you for having me.
These are strange days for you, me, and Germany. The storm clouds are gathered and grey. These are strange days for you, me, and Germany. So we find ourselves here today. Snakes and devils surround us, friends of human race.
Next time on The Fallen State.
Do we get our morality from oxytocin, or do we get it from God?
From a science perspective, I think so much of the good and evil behaviors that we see are driven by neurochemicals and brain structures.
The problem with black folks, though, in that they're so violent and so immoral, it may be due to the lack of oxytocin.
Maybe.
Do you make it in the lab?
Yeah.
Will you donate some so I can give it to them? I need help. Thanks for watching The Fallen State. We need your continued support. Donate to my nonprofit here. Subscribe and like the videos here. And tell everybody and their mama about the show.